let's start with our basic, we'll draw Spidey kind of small, even though he's in the foreground, because Venom, even though he's in the background, the idea is he's going to tower over him. So we start, as always, with our basic stick shape, stickman figure, roughing it in. And let's have one leg coming off to the side, one leg coming down. I'm just making this up as I go along here. One arm coming down, and one fist coming out this way. And his head, of course, will be... Et voila! So, let's box in Spidey. I don't want to start with Venom with just a stick figure. I want to have something with a little bit more volume. And then we'll lay in the Venom and see if I still like the overall design. Alright, Spidey. Again, very, very rough, very, very loose. I have to remember to keep talking during these videos, otherwise it might be extremely boring. That's the problem with not being able to listen to music. And this is just, I mentioned this in another video, but incredibly weird adjustment for me. Having to draw with no music. I think if I ever got hired for like an animation studio or something like that, and they were really strict and said you can't, you know, if it was a really buttoned down corporate environment and they said no music, I would not work there. I mean, I say that now, but here I am, drawing with no music. There's got to be a way. I'm going to have to figure this out. Who is stronger, physically stronger, Superman or the Incredible Hulk? Discuss. Okay, trim this down a bit. Now I'm not talking about who would win in a fight. Who would win in a fight? If you think it's the Hulk, you're wrong. It would be Superman, could beat him. Especially if he lost his temper, which doesn't happen often. Superman always pulls his punches. The only times he ever loses is when he kind of takes it easy. But in a fight, no question. I mean, Superman has taken on Darkseid. He could beat the Hulk. But who is physically stronger? Now this is the nerd question of the day by far. Why? Because Superman starts out stronger, but the Hulk has undefined parameters. So does Superman. The Hulk's strength, he gets stronger the angrier he gets. So hypothetically speaking, his strength is kind of infinite. I bring it up because my friend Zachariah and I, back when I lived in Montreal, got into a battle over this that lasted years. I said that the Hulk was physically stronger, but that Superman could win in a fight. And we both agreed that Superman would win in a fight, but Zach seemed to think that the Hulk wasn't even in Superman's league when it came to physical strength. And I think the only resolution we got to was that he ended up saying, after I put forward a bunch of evidence, he ended up saying that the Hulk actually was much stronger than he thought, but that Superman would still smoke him. What you're hearing right now is I live right next door to Hollywood e-bikes, electronic bikes. That's where I bought mine. And every once in a while the alarms go off. Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. I have purchased 3 e-bikes from Hollywood next door. Why, you may ask? Because this city is absolutely going to the dogs, and you can't leave anything downtown without it getting stolen. So all of my e-bikes have been stolen, and I don't have really a lot of money, as you might have guessed, but I do need to get around. I do need transportation. In a small northern town, there is not much bus here. But this last one that got stolen, got an anonymous tip that it was at a chop shop. Got this through the power of the internet, anonymous tip that there's a chop shop downtown where my bike was likely going to be. So I lost my temper and ran over there all by myself and kind of broke right onto the property, which, yes, I'm admitting a crime. I wasn't invited. I just walked through the gate onto the property. There's a bunch of people standing around working on, looked like skeleton graveyard of bicycles and whatnot, and this arm is way too short. Yeah, this fish should be here. This is a perfect example of why we block everything in rough shapes, because if I make a mistake and I have to redraw something, I haven't added a ton of detail, I haven't added all the shading, I haven't, you know what, now it's too long. What the hell is going on here? Case in point, I haven't added all the shading, I haven't done, you know, a ton of work, I haven't added all the detail, so if I end up having to redraw it, it only takes a moment to correct. Whereas if I went in and drew this entire arm and fully rendered, and at that point realized that, uh-oh, this arm is too small or too short, then I've got a lot of big rework on my hands. So this fist is going to be drawn coming out. And looks about right. It doesn't have to be perfect at this stage. So now, as long as it's slightly bigger than this one, because it's going to be coming forward. Observe, hands. The hand closest to the camera looks bigger than this hand down here because of perspective. So, if I draw this hand just a bit bigger. Okay, so this fist should be like this. It is like this. That would mean that his wrist is broken. So again, it only took me a moment to draw it. No big deal. There, much better. Okay, we blocked Spider-Man in, except for the head. And you will see that I am not going to be completely slavishly devoted to these lines. Adam's apple here. Likely a lot of this is going to change in the sketching process, and especially in the inking process. Let's have a big giant torso coming in like this. And then we'll have, so his leg would be coming out here, foot would be here, knee here. Now this leg would kind of come down here, but you'll notice that this would create a tangent line. Now what a tangent line is when two lines converge. Two lines on a different plane converge, and you see that they touch. And then it creates a visual discrepancy where it's hard to tell where one line ends and the other begins. So rather than have the knee come straight down here, where it would intersect here and create a tangent line, which we don't want, I'm going to have to think of something else. Anyway, I was telling a story about the bike. Yeah, I don't think I finished it. So I saw these guys working, and I saw my bike chopped into pieces. It had been missing for a few days, and there it was, and it had been sandblasted and was ready to paint. And I gave them 3 hours to reassemble it. And I went over and had dinner with my parents. Came back 3 hours later, and it was completely put back together and wrapped in an apology. So that was nice. So I've got that bike back now. So I have purchased 3 bikes and had 4 stolen. It's unfortunate. There is a real opioid crisis cutting a swath through Ontario right now. And you know, what ends up happening is people get addicted. And it's not that they're not moral people. They are. People overwhelmingly are good in general. But when one becomes a slave to one's addiction, and I'm speaking from experience, if you haven't gone through withdrawal, you don't know suffering. Believe me, there's nothing quite like it. I suffered to death. Yes, I actually kind of think that that's cool, that I am technically a zombie, seeing as how I was dead for about 4 and a half minutes. And I think it's 5 minutes or something like that, you're brain dead. Although for me, the jury's still out. You know, these people that start out, great people, great kids, you know, just like you and me, when they're going through withdrawal, they will do anything to get their fix, not to have to experience that. And that unfortunately leads to crime. And we, like I said, it's an opioid crisis right now. Fentanyl, perks, tearing through Canada, especially in these small northern towns. And as a result, the crime wave goes up too. Now I know that's a little heavy for a lazy afternoon drawing comics, so I'll change the subject, but I'm probably going to leave that in. Especially because I want to edit this as little as possible, because hey, the more you know. Best idea is don't get involved with it in the first place. Even if you think you won't get addicted, you will. So now I sponsor people in the program of Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, and seeing as how those programs are anonymous, I can't really talk about them. Other than to say, this is about the most I can get away with. Attraction rather than promotion. So the idea being is that if you want to know what goes on in those meetings, you're more than welcome to attend, but it will not be promoted in any venue. And seeing as how I now have a venue, I am now a YouTuber, I cannot promote it either. Alright. So this is kind of shaping up to be okay. I haven't resolved this leg issue yet, but what I'm going to do is just draw around it, just draw everything else, and then see if the solution presents itself. So we got a big ball here, and right now I'm just thinking about design elements, more or less. Like, here's a big negative space, so I know his hand is going to be there. Here's just a big ball. I know that that is going to be his calf muscle, but I'm not worried about right now if I draw his calf muscle perfect. I just know that there's a big space right here, and I don't want to create a tangent line between here and here, so you notice I have to separate them. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm just making sure there's no tangent line. Like, look at this kneecap, it's just a circle. That's all that I need for now. And his Venom, I like to draw him with toes. In the original comics by David Michelini and Todd McFarlane, and even later when Mark Bagley took over pencils. The point is that he was always drawn with boots, and I never understood that. Spider-Man, sure, Spider-Man, he wears boots, but Venom is really just kind of like a naked guy who's covered with this symbiote. So I'm going to draw toes. Now if I really wanted to push this, you would probably see his junk while we're at it, but let's keep this PG-13. So we will not be drawing little Venom today. Really do a ginormous fist here. That is your new word of the day. I expect every single one of you to use the word ginormous at least 7 times in casual conversation within the next 48 hours. So really ginormous fist here. And because I'm just making these claws random, you know, I don't have to worry about getting this exactly right. But again, same thing like I did over here, where I had the fist, drew the fist first, and then did the perspective. That's what I'm going to do. So now I get to figure out, okay, again, I don't want to do a tangent line, so I'm going to have his tricep cut through the head, and his bicep with a big long gap. So a tangent line, let's just draw one just to show you. If I had his bicep intersect the top of his head, then these two lines, the bicep line and the top of his head line, they converge. And with too many tangent lines, it has a hard time. You can't really overlap one image over another. They just kind of blur together, and it becomes much more difficult to create space. So tangent lines are to be avoided like the plague. Okay, and there is a big gnarly hand. Once again, everything has to kind of conform. This is why, interesting point here, this is why one wants to build up the entire figure at once. You know, I'm not going to draw this hand without drawing anything else, put in all the detail, then move down to here, then move down to here, then move down to here, because by the time I get to this arm, perhaps this is now too big or too small, and I'm going to have to correct it. But if I build it all up simultaneously, which I am doing right now, save for this leg, because I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. So that's the exception that proves the rule. But if I build it all up simultaneously, what is inevitably going to happen is that if I notice that this arm, for instance, I made bigger because I really wanted to push that perspective, well, then I get to here, and now this shoulder has to be bigger because by comparison it's too small, right? Which is okay, because I'm moving all around the paper, so I can bulk up that shoulder. Well, now I got to look over here and see if this fits. So I can just kind of keep moving and moving and moving all around, and I build up the entire drawing that way. Okay, ghouls and boils, and we are back, and I am incredibly proud of myself. So let me just show you what happened here. I just stood in front of the mirror, and let me show you real quick here. Took some photographs of my hands in order to get those done correctly. But I noticed, as I was trying to resolve this leg issue and how I was going to get that to work, notice I redrew the arm. I should have done that on camera, but I was just kind of so taken. It was one of those like, aha, eureka moments. I forgot to turn on the camera, so I just drew the arm really quick. rather than having the arm straight down as it was, the pose looks almost exactly as though Venom is just being punched. So hey, let's go with it. So instead of him looking down, we'll draw his head kind of the same way as Spidey's is here. And the cleverness of me. That is a Peter Pan catchphrase, but I'm gonna lie and tell everybody right now that I just came up with it. And that is mine. So this not working with music has me humming weird songs. I just caught myself humming the theme to Indiana Jones. And how the hell that got in my head, I don't know. Dun, 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 dun. And earlier I was humming the theme song to the Angry Video Game Nerd. And I think if I was Freud, I'd probably be able to figure that out, which is just, here's me just starting with a YouTube account, and I must be thinking about a YouTube creator that I really like, James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd, if you guys aren't familiar with him. Some of the YouTube account guys that I follow, I know like the really big ones that everyone talks about. I've never seen a PewDiePie video in my entire life. I don't know anything about him. I follow magicians, so and especially out of Montreal. When I lived in Montreal, there's a great magic community there now. I say now, it's probably already existed. I was just too damn drunk to notice it. But man, there's these great YouTubers out now. Chris Ramsey, Spidey, they live in Montreal, and they're out there making magic videos all the time. And I never got a chance to meet these guys while I was in Montreal. God, I'd love to. I love watching their videos. So I follow magicians like those guys. Shin Lim, who is Canadian, who won America's Got Talent. He fooled Penn and Teller, probably one of the greatest card men around. Anything that Red Letter Media does, I'm usually all over it. I'm going to take some photo reference of these feet here. Yes, I'm going to take photos of my feet. And my feet are extra stinky today because the gym is open. And 4 months of me not being at the gym, and now I am back. I'm back at the gym, and man, do I ever feel it. Am I ever stiff and sore? But hey, the master of shenanigans has to work on his shenanigans. Alright, that was awful, and anyone who just saw that, I have to apologize profusely. If you want to unsubscribe to my account, or even if you see me in the street and decide that I deserve a savage beating, no court in the world would convict you. Here are my beautiful feet. Whoops. There it is. And there's the other one. So, hey, clickbait, if this video does not catch on because of the drawing, this is now a foot fetish site. Alright, or get fans anywhere I can, let's put it that way. Especially ones with questionable moral character. My favorite kinds of people. What stunningly beautiful feet I have. I am going to have his tongue kind of coming out, but not the giant kind of walking tongue that Venom became for a little while there, especially in the 90s. The 90s were a strange time in comics. It's funny how the 80s, probably the best decade for comics. 1985 saw Daredevil Born Again Saw The Watchmen. Saw Batman Year One. It was just a great time for comics. And the 90s, everything went kind of extreme and, you know, got laughably absurd for a little while there. The Venom eyeball is going to be, let's say, kind of like a monstrous version of the Spidey